Today, we will start implementing the framework, automation framework for banking application, which is called Guru 99 Bank. So here first we need to log in into the application. If you want to log in, we need to create a user ID and password by clicking on this button. Then type your email, click submit, and then you will get your user ID and password. Then type your user ID and password, click login. Once you log in into this application, you will get all the functionalities. Here you can see create new customer, edit customer, delete customer, create new account, and so on. So we will automate a few of these test cases. To design a framework, we need to follow step-by-step process. Let me show you the diagram. So here is overall the framework structure. The framework means whatever automation files we have, we need to categorize them into different packages. So for example, for every test case, we need to interact with different pages. So every page we need to create different projects. So first thing is we have to create one folder or package which contains only page object classes. And there is another folder or package we will create which contains only utility files, like XL utilities reporting, read config files we will place in a utilities folder. And there is another folder, config files, where we keep POM XML, extend config XML, log4j properties, and config properties. And we have the test cases. So for every test case, we have to create one base class which contains all common things like browsers and drivers objects. All these things will be the part of base class. And for every test case, we will extend this base class through inheritance. And then once we created all the test cases, we can execute these test cases using testng.xml. After creating all test cases, we will run the build on Jenkins. So first in src test class Java, we have to create the folder structure. So first I will create one package to store all page object classes. My package name is page object class. I will create package. I will name it page objects. And similarly, I will create one more package. So in this package, I will create only test cases. Similarly, I will create one more package. Here I will put only test data files, like all the Excel sheets. Similarly, I will create one more package which is called utilities, and I will put all utilities file into this package. And then we have to create one more folder in your project storing the drivers. Then I will create one more folder to store the configuration files. To store the screenshots, I will also create one more folder. So now let us update the POM.xml file. So let me just click on the POM.xml file. Now you will see the XML file like this. This is a default XML file. Here is the dependency for Selenium WebDriver jars. Here I will also add testng dependency. For Apache POI, I will add these two dependencies. For extend report, also I will add one more dependency for extend report. Similarly, I will also add a few more dependencies, common lang 3 and common IO. Next, we will need to put from driver to drivers folder. First, we gotta open Finder with your banking app hybrid folder and paste your driver into the folder. So here on the page object package, I will create new class and I will name it as a login page. Here I will need to add all the page objects elements which are in our application. So here on the login page we have three elements with which we are interacting, which is a user ID, password and login button. We will need to add these three elements to our page object class. So first we need to create the driver object. We're gonna write web driver. And then we have to import this web driver from Selenium. And then we have to write a constructor. So the login page is my constructor. And it will take the driver as a parameter. So web driver. So let me just name it as a local driver. This is a local driver and this is a remote driver. Local driver is equal to remote driver. And here we need to also specify the page factory class. So page factory dot init elements, and here we need to specify remote driver, and here we need to specify this element. So now we need to identify the elements which are present in the login page. So let's go to our login page and identify this user ID, inspecting the page. And for user ID, the name is available, so let's copy the name. Let's go back to our code. In here we will put find by. Name in double quotation UID, and then we will specify the web element. Web element is xt username. So this is the first element we identified. Import. Similarly, I need to add 2 more elements. So here are 2 more elements. So what now? For these 3 elements we have to write our action methods. The first action method is public void set username, and this will take a username as a parameter. We will pass the username later for the actual test case. Now we need to use this element which I identified here. So copy, dot, send keys of whatever username we got here, we have to pass. Also, I forgot to put one more element here. Other action methods I have already created, so I will just copy and put them here. So I will create one more class and I will name it as a base class. And in the base class we always write common stuff which is required for every test case. We require a few variables. So base URL is required. I put public string base URL, and the username and the password. Also WebDriver. I will define the method called public setup method. So setup method is a prerequisite. Before executing the test case, what should happen is everything will put under this method. So I will mention this as a before class. So as soon as our test case class is started, the method should be executed. Class. And within the setup method, I should specify the system set property, which is system set properties. And here I currently using Chrome browser. So here I will specify web driver, Chrome driver. So I need to specify the location of the driver. Then we have to create the driver. So the driver objects we already initiated over here. So just we need to do the instantiation driver equal new Chrome driver. Similarly, I will also create one more method which is also reusable. That method is tear down method. And we have to execute this method after completion of our test case. So I'll put here at after class tear down. And this application has ads enabled. Sometimes because of these ads you might get multiple issues or lots of exceptions. So if you want to disable these ads while practicing running a Selenium test, you probably want to learn how to set up the extension. So in order to block the ads, I use one of the extension which is called OneBlock. I will search for the extension which is called OneBlock. This is a free extension and I'm not advertising this app. Here is the extension OneBlock. In order to get the CRX file, I will right click on this and get this option which I get CRX file. In order to download, you would need to set up the extension which is called get CRX. The moment I click on it, it will ask me to download. I will just rename this ad as OneBlock. Now give me 1 minute, let me copy the CRX file from the local system to the extension folder. And now in order to work with the extension, I will be creating object of Chrome option class. Going to my base class, and here I put Chrome option. So I'm creating object of Chrome options, which is a dedicated class. Next, I gotta import the class. And now I will be using the method called .addExtension. I can give multiple files here, but in this example, we are taking only one file, and this file is our extension. So I'm going to create object of a file class using new keyword, and in the path I will provide the path of this extension. Here we need to import the class. So extension is available inside extensions folder. And we will pass this extension over here. Now with this driver, whatever web application you will launch, it will block the ads. Now we will create actual test case under test case package. Test case, login, test 1. We have to extend base class. Now I will get the actual test method. Void login test. And here I will implement the code for the logging. First, we have to open the URL of the application. So driver.get, and the URL we have stored in the variable here. So we have to use that variable here as a base URL. Once you open this base URL, now we need to use the page object class. We have to create an object of logging. And we have to pass driver as a parameter. Now import the classes. Actually, I made one mistake. We have to make the constructor of logging page public. So here, gotta make it public. Now everything is right. And now lp dot set username. And here the username we have to pass, so we already stored the username and everything in the base class, right? So we go to the base class, and here username, we have to copy it and paste it over here. We put password, pl set password, and after this we have another method, pl click submit. Next, we have to check whether the homepage title is exactly as per our expected title or not. So here I will write if condition. If driver dot get title dot equals, this will return the title of the page, and here we specify the title of the page. And if it's equal, we have to write one assert command. Assert dot assert true is true, and this is our condition. Import class, and similarly, if it's false, we put else, and then we put assert dot assert true is false. Next, let me add log4j dependency. We go to POM XML and we'll add the log. Here we go. Now we will implement the log4j for this test case. So we have to keep that file to your project home directory. So log4j.property I already have, and we will need to copy it right into your project. Now let us start implementing logs for the test cases. So first go to the base class. So in the base class, along with these two properties, I will add a few more stuff here. Logger equal to logger.get logger. And here we need to specify the name of the project, which is eBanking. Import the class. And along with this, we have to use one property configurator. Dot configure, and here we have to say the name of the file, properties, and semicolon. You're gonna import our class. So this object, we need to make it as a global because this object will be for multiple methods. Logger, and I will make it as public and static. And here we gotta specify this logger. So here I can try something like logger dot info, and here I will put some comments that will appear in the log. So here I will put URL is open. Similarly, this message you can write wherever you want. So I will put one over here, enter username. And here I can say enter password. And here I can say login test pass. And here I can say the logging test failed. Next, we have to create a config.properties file. Let's go to configuration folder and create config.properties. So in this file, we have to keep all the variables along with the values. So here I will copy a few variables. So here we have base URL, our web application. Here we have username, password, and home path. Next, we have to create one more file in the utility folder, and we name it read config. First thing, we have to create object for the properties class. There is a specific class available in Java. We need to import it from java.util. And then I will create one constructor. First method I will create is get application URL. Then I will create next method, which is get username. Similarly, for every variable we have to create a method. So here I will create multiple methods over here. So now I will create the object of read config, and the object name is read config. And is equal to new read config. Just creating the object. So I just remove this URL from here. So here I'm gonna use this variable read config dot. So here, as you can see, it gives me all methods. So I will choose get application URL. Similarly, we have to get the username dynamically. So to get this, gotta put read config dot get username. Similarly, we have to do the same thing over here. Read config dot. I just found that I forgot to create a couple new methods over here in read config, so I put a method for get password and get home path. Actually, get home path we don't need in this project. Also, we don't need this path over here, home path. I will delete it. Now we will run our test cases on desired browsers. I will put another annotation over here, which is called parameters. Because this will take parameters from XML file. So here I will mention the browser as a variable. The same variable name we have to use in the XML file. And here I will say string br. Now, based on the value we get from XML over here, and based on the condition, I will decide which browser I will need to launch. Currently, this statement will launch only Chrome browser. So here I will put the condition: if br dot equals, and then I will execute this particular piece of code. If the browser is Chrome, it will launch the Chrome browser. Next, else if br dot equals, if it's a Firefox, then I need to launch Firefox browser. I will copy the code over here. I gotta change this path to my driver. Now, if the browser is Firefox, then it will launch the Firefox browser. Then, else if br equals, and if it's IE browser, Internet Explorer, and here I also will put the path to the driver. In your real project, you will need to add a folder at the end of each path over here. Just change it over here. In my case, I only have Chrome driver. Here, this driver get base URL. I will remove it from here, and I will put it here. Also, I will cut it here and put it here. Alright, so now it's done. Next, we will need to create an XML file. Now I will create the XML file at the project level. So here I will go to my banking app hybrid project and type test ng.xml. So now we need to write an XML file to execute all our test cases. So here I will paste my XML file. Now we will work on adding extend report. Along with this, we will need to add a utility file to generate a report. So here in the utilities, I will create new class and name it reporting. And this reporting file we will need to extend from test listener adapter class. Extends test listener adapter. So inside this I will copy some piece of code. So now let's observe this code. So every time when you run your test cases, it will generate new report. And every time when you save the report, we have to save the report with a time stamp. So in the XML file, we will need to make one more entry. So the screenshot method will be the part of your base class. So this method is capture screen method. So I call this method at the failure, which is over here. And now we need to throw an exception over here. Also, to run the test, we need to add annotation test over here. Also, I will change something over here. I'm gonna use Chrome browser to run my test. Now we can go back and try to run our test case by clicking on play button. Now you can see our test successfully passed. Next we will create data-driven test case. But first let's check if we have Apache dependency. Let's go to pom.xml, and as we can see we have two dependencies which we need for our test. So now let's go to utility package. And now I will also add one more utility class that is called Excel utils. So let me just copy this file. So here we have common variables and get row count, get cell count, and get cell data, and set cell data. So these are the reusable methods we create under Excel utils. So wherever we want to work with Excel utils, we have to just call these methods by using these classes directly. So this is my Excel file, which contains a few usernames and few passwords. But you will need to create some valid and invalid data. It's gotta be some combinations of data that you gotta keep. So I will put this data under test data package. Now the Excel file will be the part of the test data package. And within the package we can put any kind of documents and files. So by double clicking on this file, you will open this Excel file and you will see this data over here. Now we gotta use a data provider. Now we're ready to create data-driven test case. Let's go under test cases and create new class, and we'll call it test case login data-driven test number 2. Now in this test case I will create few methods, but before that I will extend the base class. Because all the common methods and common things we have put under base class. Now first we need to write a test method, and then we have to write a data provider method. First method will perform the logging, and the second is data provider method, which will provide data to the test method. So now I will create a method that is called public void login DDT. So this is actually test method. So I will put test annotation. Now we will create a data provider method. And we will name it getData. And here we put the data provider annotation. When we have a data provider annotation, we will need to specify some name into this. So I put name equal logging data. First of all, let's us implement the data provider method, because internally, again, this data provider method, we take the data from Excel and store that into a two-dimensional array. And finally, it will return data from a two-dimensional array to actual test case. First, we need to specify where our test data is located. So here we put string path equal to. So where is our data located? It's located under test data. So when you click on this, you will see the path over here, and now we can click copy. Also, we can write it as this syntax. Next, we will need to use Excel utils methods. Let me open our methods. I will gonna close tabs that I don't use. So we need to count number of rows and number of columns. So here in the util class, we have get row count and get cell count. So when I call this method, it will give me number of rows and number of columns. So here I will create an integer variable. Row num equal to, and here we have class Excel utils dot, and here you will see all methods: get cell count, get row count, get cell data. So let's add get row count. And here we need to pass two parameters. So first is Excel file and second is Excel sheet. And then I will send the number of columns. Integer equals Excel utils dot get cell count. And here I gotta pass three parameters: Excel file, Excel sheet, and row number. So here I will put path, comma, sheet 1, comma, and the row number. We gotta specify one of the row numbers. So we have to specify either one of the row number, and it will count number of cells we have. And I'll put just number 1. Now we have the column count. Now we need to create the two-dimensional array. So here I create string logging data. This is two-dimensional array, and we need to specify the same size of the table that we have with the same number of rows and columns. So here we put new, and it will be string, and we will pass this variable. Also we're gonna pass the same value over here. So it will create the same kind of two-dimensional array with the same size. And now we know the number of rows and number of columns. So we need to write a small for loop here to get the data. So here I'll put for loop integer I equal to 1. So in the Excel file, the 0 row is the header part, and I is less than or equal to row number. And I plus plus. Okay, inside this I will write one more for loop so that the outer for loop represent the number of rows and the inner for loop represent the every column from the particular row. So here I will start integer j equal to, and again the column number I will start from 0, and j is less than column count, and j plus plus. Now I will put this statement. Let's see what I'm doing. From Excel utils get cell data, pass the path of your Excel, the sheet name, and the I is representing the row number, and the J is representing the column number. And I'm storing this value over here. Now I need to get this value that is stored in two-dimensional array. J is the same, not changed, but I value, if I equals to 1, here I say I minus 1, because in the two-dimensional array I have to start from 0. In the Excel sheet we have eliminated the first row, so this is the reason why I need to say I minus 1. By the time this for loop is completed, this logging data contains all the data which is read from Excel file. Now, after completion of the for loop, we have to send this data to actually test case. So at the end, we have to say return login data, and the type is string, two-dimensional array. Also, I will add some exceptions. Now I will come back to actual test method. So this method will take the data from data provider annotation. So here we need to specify one parameter, data provider equal the same name we gotta refer over here, because if the test case contains multiple data, provider method doesn't know from which method we have to take the data. So that's why we need to specify some unique name for this. So here I will create logging page LP equal to new logging page, and here we gotta pass the driver. And after this, we gotta call set username, set password. So LP set username. So this method will take two parameters, username and password. So we have to specify string user, comma, string password pwd. Now the same values we have to pass to this method now. And here I will create one more method, lp dot set password, and I will pass the password. Now we're sending username and the password, and after this we need to click on the submit button. So lp dot click submit. So with this we will click the submit and perform the logging. So here I will create another method, public boolean. Boolean means true or false, and I will name it is alert present. Now inside this, whatever I call this method, it will check if alert is present or not. If alert is present, it returns true. If the alert is not present, it will return false. So now I will create a method here. I say driver dot switch to dot alert. When this command is executed, if alert is present on the web page, this command will go and switch to this alert if alert is available. But if alert is not available, this statement will throw the exception. So I will put this statement in try block. And it will return true. But if the alert is not present, in this case it will throw an exception. And immediately I will catch this exception over here. Catch exception, I say E. The exact name is no alert present exception. Now here I will return false in the catch block. Now what happens is when I call this method, it will verify whether the alert is present or not. So first it will try to execute this statement in the try block, and if alert is present, it will return true. It will not go to the catch block. But if this statement throws an exception, which means the alert is not present, this statement won't get executed. It directly jumps to the catch block, and the catch block will handle the exception, and it will return false to my method. False means the alert is not present. So this is a user-defined method created to check whether alert is present or not. Now come back to actual test method. After clicking on submit, I will just call this method. So I'm gonna call with if condition. So if the alert is present, it will return true. It means that my test case is failed. The login is failed. So we have to close the alert window. We have to switch to this alert. So I put driver dot switch to dot alert dot accept. We gotta close this alert. Then driver dot switch to dot default content. This command will focus on the main page, and then I gotta make my test case false. So I put assert true, false. And if my condition is not true, then my test is pass, else I will specify assert true is true. And then we're going to the page object class. We gotta have login and logout link. And over here. Now let's come back to our test case. Here in the past case, we need to pass our test case and click on logout link. So we're gonna put lp dot logout. Now this is the part of your page object class, and after this we need to handle alert window. So driver dot switch to. So this is logout alert. This is different alert than it was before. So dot alert dot accept. So this will close logout alert, and then when you close this alert, it will go to login page. So we will put driver switch to dot default content. Now this will focus on the login. Then the same method will repeat multiple times. Now we will need to add some logs. I will put one log over here, username provided. Another log will be here, password provided. And here we will put login failed. And here we will put login passed. And that's it. Now my test method is done. And this method will verify whether the alert is present or not, and the data provider method. So this is the whole test case. Also, we gotta put some waiters because it will take some time to perform some operations on the web page. So I will put wait statements where it's required. We will put implicit waits. Let's go to the base class. So here, as soon as we created the driver, we can add an implicit wait statement. We will put driver dot manage dot timeouts dot implicit wait. We will say 10 seconds, and we will put some thread slips in the test case. One thread slip is going to be here. After clicking on the submit button, here it will pause for 3 seconds and it will throw the exception. And also here, after clicking on the log out, so it's going to be just 2 places where I used thread slip. Okay, let's try and run this test case. So it logs in. Login is successful. First test is passed. Second failed. Third failed. Third successful, logged in. Now logged out. And third one, fifth one got failed, and we have pass, failed, failed, passed, failed, which we were looking for. Now, if we want to run this test case, any other test cases in XML file over here, we gotta add one more file to our project. I already created this file. I'm gonna just paste it. It is called extendconfig.xml. Let's add the data-driven test case to our XML file. So we already have login test case, and second is gonna be data-driven test case. Let's comment this one and click run. And we can see over here, first is passed, second failed, third failed, fourth passed, and fifth failed. Now we will automate a new test case. First, we have to create a new page object class. So here, let's go to page object package and create one new class, and we will call it add customer page. So this is a page object class. First, we need to create a WebDriver variable, and then we have to write a constructor. So as soon as we created a constructor, we need to identify all elements which are present inside the web page. So let's go back to our banking application. Here we have a new customer button. Once we're over here, we have these elements, which is customer name, gender, date of birth, address, city, state, PIN, mobile number, email, password. But this time I'm gonna use different approach to identify these elements. So I'm gonna use how keyword to identify all the elements. I have already identified them, so let me just copy those here. So these are all elements. So how equal how dot xpath, comma, using equal and xpath I had to specify, and add catch lookup and web element. Actually, we don't need two elements over here, and one more from here. So this is a customer name, this is gender, this is date of birth, this is address, city, state, PIN number, telephone number, email address, password, and finally submit button. So all elements I have identified. Now for every element I need to write action methods. So I already have the action methods. Let me just copy them. Alright, this is all action methods. So let me just go one by one. So first is click add new customer link and the customer name. Take customer name as a parameter and pass this name to this element. Select the gender type and click on the gender. We have to get these values in 3 different parameters: month, date, and year. And now month we gotta pass exactly at the same element. Same thing we gotta do with the date and year. So this is not the normal text box. In this text box there is a slash. So that's why we gotta pass month separately, day separately, year separately. And then customer address takes the parameter and pass. And then city and state and customer telephone number, and then customer PIN number, customer phone number, customer email ID, password, and then click on the submit button. So this is a complete page object class for add customer page. Now I am going to test cases, and I'm gonna create a new test case, and I will call it test case add customer test number 3. Another thing that I noticed that base class should be under our test case package. So let me refactor very quick. I'm gonna cut it from here and paste it over here. Refactor. It's much better right now. Now, as soon as I created a new test case, I gotta extend a base class. So here I'm gonna say public void add a new customer. Now this method is not taking any parameters. First, we need to start with a login. Let me make it as a test. Add test annotation. I will use 2 page object classes over here. Login page and add customer page. So let's us see. Login page LP equal to new login page, and I have to pass a driver object over here. So this driver comes from the base class. Now using LP we gotta provide some values. Dot set username, we gotta pass the parameter username. Next we gotta write LP dot set password and pass the parameter password over here. And now click on the submit button. So this will perform a login process. And after the login, we gotta wait for some time. And now I will start adding some details about the customer. So first I gotta create an object of a page object class. So I'm gonna do add customer page, add customer equal new add customer page, and pass a driver over here. Also it will throw an exception over here. Now we gotta click on the new customer button. We're gonna add customer dot click add new customer. Okay, and now I'm gonna put some test data over here. We're gonna wait for 3 seconds, and then I'm gonna add customer name Alex, then wait for 3 seconds, then we gotta select the gender male, and then we're gonna choose a birthday. Month is gotta be, let's say, December, day 11th and 1985. And then we're gonna put the address, USA, and city, and we're gonna put the state, and I'm gonna PIN number and the telephone number over here. And on this website we have a restriction on the email address. Let me show you. So every time a new customer has to have an unique email address. So whenever we run our automation code, every time we have to pass a unique email ID. So we need to generate a random email ID. So here I will write a function. string random string. So this method will return a random string. So in Java we have a predefined method which is called random string utils. So a random string utils, and here we have another class, random alphabetics, and here we gotta tell a number. So if I put number 5 over here, this line will create a string which contains 5 characters. Now I will store this string into a variable. So I will say string generated string, and I put 8 over here, and now I will return this string over here. So this is a random string method. So when I call this method, it will generate a string with 8 characters and it will return. So in the test case, I will call this method random string, and for this string I will pin @gmail.com, because an email should has some kind of format. So every time it will generate a new email address. Now let's store this email address in a variable. So string email is equal to. Now let's pass this email variable to a customer email method. So I'll put @customer.customer email. Now we gotta send a password and click submit button. And after the submission, we gotta wait for some time. Let's put 3 seconds over here. And after submission, we gotta validate. So we will put here driver.get page source dot contains, and I'm gonna put this customer register successfully. So this will return true or false. If this text is present on the web page, it will return true, and if it's not present, it will return false, and it will return a boolean value. So let me put boolean, and res is a variable name. Now based on this, I have to do a validation. So here I will put an if condition. So if res equal true, it means my case is passed, and I write assert that assert true is true. And now else, we need to make this test as a fail. So I will put assert that assert true fail. Also we gotta capture screenshots. So I will put capture screenshot over here, and we gotta pass 2 parameters. First is a driver, and second is a name, add new customer. And we gotta add an exception over here. So this is our test case, the complete test case. Now since we're gonna generate a random string in some test cases also, we can move this to our base class. We're gonna open our base class, and here we're gonna move it over here. Now let's add some logs into our test case. So I will put username is provided, password is provided, providing customer details, validation started, test case passed and test case failed. Now let's try and run our test case. So here it opens the web application and clicks on new customer, fills up some customer information, and now we have this window registered, and now as we can see the test case has passed. Now we need to make this test case as a part of our XML file. So we will copy and go to our XML and we will put it over here. Let's comment this line and run it from here. Run as a test.ng file. Again, it opens the page, logs in, and clicks on the new customer, fills up some information, and again passed successfully. Alright, so now let me remove this comment over here, and now everything is ready to run the whole framework, including these 3 test cases. So phase 1 is completed. Now in the phase 2 we should be able to execute our test cases in Jenkins. So to do this we have to have a local repository Git and a remote repository GitHub. Now let's go to Jenkins. This process actually will happen in the real time. So let's assume this Jenkins is from DevOps server. So we don't need to configure any local part. So now I will create a new project. So let's go and create a new item. So I will give the name to the item banking app hybrid. Then I will select a Maven project. Click OK. So once we created this project, we need to add some details over here. So here in the source code management, we have to select Git. And here we need to give a repository URL and paste it over here. Don't need to set any credential over here, and then scroll down. So here we gotta put it as a POM XML over here for a build. So from this URL it will execute the POM XML. In the branches we have to change master to main. And here in the build we gotta write a command which is clean install. Now let's apply and then save. Another thing that we have to do is to set up GitHub credentials. So go to Jenkins, and from here you gotta select Manage Jenkins. From here we gotta select credentials. Then we gotta click on the global and select Add Credentials. In the section kind, I'm gonna choose username with password, where I'm gonna put my username and password. Then we're gonna click create. Now as we can see, this credential just saved over here. So let's go back to our Jenkins. Now we can execute this project. And we're gonna click build now. From here we can select this tab and check the console output. Now our tests are running, as we can see. Chrome driver was successfully started. There was our first test passed. And our last test, add customer. Gonna put some information, click submit, and just created a new customer. Here we can see the build is a success and the time, total time. And here we have some failures, but it was expected because it was a negative test. So this is how you run your test cases in Jenkins to check if everything is good. Now you can share your test cases with DevOps so that they can run it in CI build. So for the conclusion, we created a hybrid framework for our eBanking application. So first we started with the implementation. So we created a Maven project, then we updated POM XML, then we started creating page objects, and then we created test cases, and we added logs to test cases. Then we created read common values from property files, and then we ran test cases on desired browsers and added extend report. Then we a test case which is called a data-driven test case, and we added a new test case to create a new customer. And in the second phase it was execution, and we executed our test cases in Jenkins. First we set up GitHub credentials, then we created a new item, then we configured our build, and the last we ran our command clean install. And this concluded our project for Selenium hybrid framework. Thank you very much all for watching. See you next time.